evaluate deals in green tech just can't be done. You have to understand the true potential of that project that's coming forward. And for you to have that kind of specialization, you need scale. Okay. Next. I think I'm coming to the end. Okay, so as a result, because we don't have content depth, for lack of a better word, and because our competitiveness has been anchored on cost, rather than innovation, as liberalization intensifies, our balance of payments essentially has been taking a hit. So our trade deficit, although it's still positive, has essentially been declining. So all of you are buying a lot of imports. Okay, so the good news is that since 2004, a concerted effort has been made to transform corporate measures. So 2004, after my birthday, they embarked on this program. So literally after my birthday, 14th of May. So the first phase was essentially about putting in place the right leadership and governance. So the first phase of GLCT was essentially about bringing in people like Cik Khalid, Wahid, to take leadership of these companies and put in place the right management bench, pay them properly, have KPIs, put them on contracts so that if they don't perform, you can kick them out easily and so on. So in 2004, 2005, 2006, a bunch of senior management were essentially converted from permanent positions to contract positions. Get paid more, but at the end of 2 years, you don't perform, you get kicked out. And that enabled the fact that there was this GLC transformation hype, the fact that pays were adjusted to market, essentially enabled these people to get the right these companies to get the right people in and to embark on company-level transformation process. So, essentially you had a lot of financial restructuring during that period. You had companies actually divesting non-core businesses and essentially having clear strategies of how they want to take the company moving forward. As a result, most of these companies have actually seen domestic and international growth. And I think the next stage is we've probably exhausted the economies of scale for most of these industries, the economies of scale that you can get domestically. It's now about how you get greater scale by expanding externally. So in banking, in engineering services, in oil and gas even, companies have sought to go overseas to actually expand and get better economies of scale. And often in these cases, if you've exhausted the economies of scale that you can get within your company, it's about government and regulators using licensing, using regulation as a tool to force the industry to consolidate and rationalize. So a good example is banking. Yeah, when I first started in Malaysia, there must have been at least 30 banks. And today, I don't have much choice. There are only 3 banks or something like that. Yeah, so
9.
I don't feel it then. Okay, next. So corporate or GLCT efforts have been supported by several government initiatives. So I know PM has this thing, One Malaysia Performance, People First Performance Now. I'm not a politician, so he has nothing. But he probably memorizes all this. So you have the twin pillars of the GDP, EDP, but I think more than that, I think this PM, I'm not promoting him, but this PM has made some effort to actually address the key enablers that I said were not being sufficiently addressed in the past. Yeah? So he set up Talent Corp to address Malaysia's talent gaps more strategically. Unit Innovation, Unit Inovasi High, which is now called Agency Innovation Malaysia, which is tasked to actually accelerate the adoption of commercialization. You have the NEM's SRIs, Strategic Reform Initiatives, all of which are actually addressing the enablers. And I think that on a number of dimensions, we have seen demonstration of seriousness and success. I mean, this recent customs incident, I think, is evidence of how serious we are in terms of addressing corruption. And in a number of sectors, as I've mentioned to you before, we have seen industry consolidation, dismantling of outdated regulations to essentially set in place the enabling building blocks for these industries to move forward. Next. However, this is my parting thought. Essentially, I think that everything we're doing is great. However, I think that what we're doing is not enough, because 30 years ago, we were comparing ourselves with Singapore, and today it scares me that in government meetings, we are trying to make ourselves competitive against Vietnam. That's scary. In 10, 15 years' time, which country are we comparing ourselves to? Really scary. Okay. And these are some of the areas which I think are difficult nuts to crack, and we haven't sufficiently thought about how we want to address it. So I'm very passionate about this issue of subscale industries that we've created. And earlier, in my talk, I talked about the oil and gas industry, using the fabrication example. So you created all these subscale fabrication yards. So then, you do this lab, and the lab says that it's not sustainable, move forward, we need regional champions. To get the regional champions, you say we want to consolidate. That's easier said than done, because you consolidate one subscale yard in the south with one subscale yard in the north. What economies of scale do you actually get? You don't get anything, because the true economies of scale in that business is you're sufficiently big in one location where you can have the type of specialized cranes, the type of specialized equipment that will actually enable you to build more complicated offshore structures and vessels, and that's how you create value. So if you're still merging two players with similar capabilities, with similar expertise, and furthermore they're not even contiguous, so it's not that I can easily tap on your facilities. How do you get economies of scale? So it's very easy to say consolidation, but really very difficult to make it happen and to make the economics work. We also have, I think, a very fragmented delivery system in government, which is what is making it difficult to actually impact real change. So I think we had good intention. We wanted to develop biotech industry green tech industry halal industry, macam-macam industry. But how, when the delivery system is so fragmented? So you want to support this one business coming in from the US or France or whatever, or domestic company for that matter. But to help him, you actually need to go through 22. We actually counted, because we actually had to do a project to simplify the delivery system. 22 government agencies, from his work permit, import permit, license, whatever, 22 agencies you have to coordinate across. Just very fragmented. And since nobody actually wants to give up their power, in each of these approval processes, this one-stop center thing, you can only do it, you end up doing it for very simple things, or it becomes only a coordination facilitation thing. Yeah, you can't really speed up the process. Affirmative action. I, by the way, got here because of affirmative action. I was a Partner scholar, and I was also educated for 5 years in boarding school at MRSM, so I got here because of affirmative action. But what in the NEP started off as poverty eradication, so there were 2 pillars of the NEP, right? Well, who actually knows the 2 pillars of the NEP?
I think I do.
Yes, go ahead.
Membasmi kemiskinan.
Yes.
And menyusun semula masyarakat.
Silakan, we should go. So, if I translate that into English, it's essentially eradication of poverty regardless of race, and eliminating the economic function, eliminating the association of economic function with race. Yeah? So that was how the NEP started off, and I think it had very pure objectives. Over time, I don't know how or where, because I wasn't there, it became this Bumiputra agenda thing, yeah, which I believe, but then I'm nobody, I believe was not the true spirit of the NEP, yeah. But the NEP has become something very widely misunderstood, whereby the people who, well, not all, some of the people classified in this group somehow feel that because they're Bumiputra, they're entitled to certain things. But that was not the original spirit of the NEP. The original spirit of the NEP was, ensuring that all races could participate in all economic functions. It's very different from what it has become now. And I believe the NEP has the potential to be the center of political, social, economic tension. Just so you know, when we had this 30% corporate equity thing, in the early years, it didn't create as much tension because we were essentially allocating from foreigners to Bumi. Now, there's very little scope to allocate from foreigners to Bumi. It has to be from non-Bumi to Bumi. And are we saying that they are less Malaysian? Yeah, so it's if we go ahead, is, has the potential to be a source of major social, political tension. Finally, I'm also very passionate about the fact that there's something wrong with our education system. So I quite honestly admit that my kids, they go to international school. And I will tell you why. And sorry, everybody here, so how many people here were educated in the UK? Zoe, raise your hand. Adiba, raise your hand. Okay. So I send my kids to British International School, but the difference actually is not so much the curriculum or the syllabus. The curriculum or the syllabus to me is actually beside the point. The point is that, having gone through it myself and having put my kids through it, the difference really is that in our education system, the emphasis is always on content. We actually cover, I'm told, more content than other countries. So I continuously hear from people from MOE, whatever, in terms of syllabus, our syllabus is superior. But that's missing the point, because the point of an education system is not actually to cram content into the student. It's actually, and this is the philosophy of the British education system, I think, it's that at the end of going through this whole system, there will be two skills that you have. The first is the knowledge of how to learn yourself. And the second is the love of learning. Yeah? And it's, it's very cleverly inculcated through a lot of activities, but essentially it's a soft skill that you develop, as you are exposed to the system. So, give you a simple example. I decided when I went to do my A-levels in UK to take history papers. So my director of studies told me no Malaysian ever comes here and takes history as a paper. So I say, it's okay, I would like to take history as a paper. So my first history lesson, we learned about the Wars of the Roses. So any of you know about the Wars of the Roses? Essentially between the Yorkists and the Lancastrians, yeah? So we were set an essay, and the essay was, why did the Duke of York become King of England in 1461? So with all great faith, I then opened the reading, the text that we had been assigned, and was essentially flipping to the part where it would say, these are 4 reasons why Edward IV became king. So cari tak ada. And I said, how can this be? Because in SVM, the equivalent question, which is, why did the Thai Revolution in 1929 happen? They would tell me the 5 reasons. So here, it's not there. So then I said, maybe this is a trick, because maybe, the teachers just gave us the wrong book, and that you're supposed to be more effort, go to the library, it's actually in a different book. So I actually went to the library and took out all the books that were touching on the topic of the Wars of the Roses, and went through all of them, and I couldn't find the answer. And I said, we actually expected to think of the answer. So I said, okay, let me think about the answer. So I said, the Duke of York became king because, firstly, people were against Henry VI. Secondly, he actually had royal blood, so by supporting him, people didn't feel it was treason. Thirdly, he had the nobility supporting him, so he could build an army. So I essentially, thought of my own reasons of why I thought he became king. But at the end of it, I thought, man, in Malaysia, you don't have to do this because somebody provides you the answer. Yeah, but essentially, that's what I'm talking about. It's a system that forces you to arrive at the answer yourself. And that's what you're actually going to need in real life, not the memorization of content, because the content is irrelevant. Okay, the last bullet point is important because, this is probably not robust data, but early data that we have indicates that if you look at high-performing boomies, and I'm sorry I only have data for boomies, but if you look at high-performing boomies, and you define high-performing boomies as people who manage to earn
17 is 21 is
20,000.
People who manage to earn 20,000 a month before the age of 40.
Oh.
So I arbitrarily decide that a high-performing boomy is somebody who, before the age of 40, manages to earn a salary of 25,000 a month, at least. He's already top 1% of the economy since the other 95% is earning below 5,000, right? So we found that actually a large proportion, about half at least of these people are actually all foreign graduates.